This is Hoosier Ag Today. It's the morning edition for the 1st of October, 2015, and harvest moves along. I'm Andy Eubank. We have the latest Indiana farm news for you. A couple of issues are pushing for a quick corn harvest. We'll visit with Bill Mullen of Seed Consultants in a southeast Indiana cornfield. Also, another voice has been added to the RFS fight. Gary Truitt has that report. A look back at the Wednesday markets following the September quarterly stocks report yesterday. And also coming up, hat meteorologist Ryan Martin checks the Indiana farm forecast. This is the morning edition of Hoosier Ag Today.
Indiana Farm Bureau needs you. It's critical for your farm and family that your voice be heard daily. Farm Bureau membership tells legislators that Indiana agriculture stands together on property tax issues, farmland annexation, and water rules. Protect your livelihood and children's future by going online to infb.org/join or call 1-800-FARM-BUREAU. infb.org/join or call 1-800-FARM-BUREAU. Your membership brings value and benefits, but more importantly, it adds your voice to that of your neighbors and friends. Don't stand on the sidelines. Be heard on local, state, and national issues. We'll show you how. Indiana Farm Bureau needs you. Go to infb.org/join or call 1-800-FARM-BUREAU.
This is Hoosier Ag Today. I'm Andy Eubank reporting on Indiana agriculture. Don't forget to check out our regular agronomy updates, including harvest updates this time of year, of course. Listen each week on this station for the DuPont Pioneer Agronomy Updates, and check out the agronomy page at HoosierAgToday.com and the mobile app for smartphones and tablets. Indiana farmers are working hard to get their crops out of the field as soon as they are ready for harvest, and a late arriving disease this year is another reason to get to the corn crop before weather takes down the stalks. Anthracnose leaf blight starts at the top and works its way down the plant, and stalk rot eventually comes into play, according to agronomist Bill Mullen. He found the disease in a cornfield this week between Greensburg and Batesville, just off I-74.
All these black lesions on here, all right, these are the spores. When you look at this plant, this is the base, and these are going to be the lower inner nodes. This node here is rotten, second one's rotten, third one's rotten, fourth one's rotten, fifth one's rotten. And this pith is really drying out. So basically, we've got some stalk issues out here. This is a big concern that I have, trying to get the crop harvested, because we know it's not going to be able to stand out there, especially if we get any heavy winds.
You can see what Mullen found in the new hat video with the Seed Consultants agronomist. In the non-GMO cornfield, he also found corn plants invaded by European corn borer, plants that were dropping ears because of the pest.
One thing I've been seeing a lot of this year, especially in conventional corn, is the presence of European corn borer. Pretty much second generation is doing some damage out there. When I was walking into the field, I saw several dropped ears, and that corn borer went into the shank. Normally it can go up into the ear itself. With this European corn borer damage, a nice size ear like this, and with the weak shank, there's only one way it's going to go. It's going to go down on the ground.
Mullen's message is a familiar one. Prioritize at-risk fields and get them harvested as soon as is feasible. See the video at our website, HoosierAgToday.com, or follow the Hoosier Ag Today YouTube channel. A new organization has been formed to fight for the renewable fuel industry and the RFS. Gary Truitt reports on what makes this group different.
Americans for Energy Security and Innovation is the latest industry-supported organization to begin a campaign to pressure the Obama administration and the EPA to administer the RFS the way it was intended. Led by former Missouri Senator Jim Talent, the new organization will focus on putting political pressure on the EPA.
And one of the things we want to do is influence them, both directly and by influencing political leaders, to administer the law faithfully.
Talent, one of the original architects of the RFS legislation, says the White House has been actively working to limit the use of biofuels in America, just the opposite of what the RFS was supposed to do.
You know, the Obama administration for the last several years has proposed regulations which are inconsistent with the purposes of the law, and that's particularly ironic, not to say hypocritical, because the president's going to go in November to Paris to talk with other countries about how to reduce greenhouse gases, and this is a policy which is reducing greenhouse gases today at low cost.
Talent said the new group will target free market conservative members of Congress who have not always been strong supporters of renewable fuels.
We don't have a free market today because we have an international cartel operating that can and does manipulate the price of oil in part in order to inhibit competition.
Both Growth Energy and the Renewable Fuels Association issued statements saying they welcome the new group and pledge to work together to present an even stronger voice in Washington in support of the renewable fuel standard. I'm Gary Truitt.
And I'm Andy Eubank. This is Hoosier Ag Today, Indiana's Farm Network.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at Hoosier Ag Today's Indiana Farm Forecast from the Wells Fargo Forecast Center. As we take a look at the latest setup here, we are looking at a fairly calm period across the Hoosier State as we go forward. We've got high pressure in control, even though it's sitting well up to our north over the Canadian province of Ontario, moving into Quebec. Its influence, though, goes all the way down into the middle part of Tennessee. So there's a big push of this cool, dry, high-pressure air across the region. As we go forward, honestly, more of our attention is going to need to be paid to Hurricane Joaquin. A lot of models are bringing it in, trying to make landfall somewhere in the mid-Atlantic state. But one key model, the European model, it wants to kind of keep the storm out to sea. That will make a big difference as to how things emerge here. On one hand, we've got models that are trying to throw moisture back in, building it in over parts of Ohio and Indiana, lots of clouds, maybe even some rain, moving east to west. We've covered that already. That's not the way things are supposed to move, but it's interesting. The other bigger thing is if a storm that's Category 2 or 3 comes in, hits the east coast of the United States, it's going to back the pattern up. It's going to just kind of stall everything across the rest of the country. That leaves our next front not arriving till probably late Wednesday into Thursday of next week. It'll keep the nice air around longer over a large part of the Corn Belt. But if this storm stays farther out to sea and then just kind of curves off to the north and east, well, then all of a sudden you're not backing the pattern up. So a lot of things are going to be coming down to what this crazy tropical storm does over the course of the next 3 to 4 days. We're going to be watching it closely. Right now, we feel easily that we're going to be seeing dry air right on through the weekend. Actually, over the entire Hoosier State, I'm going to even leave precipitation out through the first half of next week. I know some are saying clouds and showers moving in later Sunday because of the moisture out to the east. I think the Appalachians hold it. Yes, we can see some clouds maybe, but not precipitation. I'm keeping us dry. Our next front, I like right now Wednesday into Thursday of next week. I'm going to leave my moisture totals alone, about 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch coverage, probably 75 to 80% of the state of Indiana. I think there's good moisture there. Then we see a drier period coming in with another area of high pressure following that, and that should bring dry weather through that next weekend, through the 10th, through the 11th. We'll be keeping an eye out for a system around the 14th into the 15th that could bring half to 1 inch rainfall totals to the state. Right now, I only like coverage there at about 70%, although it looks like it's a nice one, so we may have to jack that to 90% or even 100% in the days ahead if the system holds together. Other things to talk about here, breezy conditions. You know what? This high-pressure dome, I think, will continue to keep winds across the state. So look for winds to be a little bit brisk through the day today. Temperatures normal to slightly below, probably one more day today. Then we're back close to normal as we go through tomorrow and the weekend. So that will be nice. And then next week, ahead of that front, I think we see south winds really take hold. But all eyes, as we said, on Joaquin. We'll see what happens to him later today. That's the way things are stacking up. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin on Hoosier Ag Today, Indiana's Farm Network.
Monitor your grain anytime, any place with GrainTrack from Co-Alliance. GrainTrack uses the latest technology for remote temperature readings every 30 minutes. Let GrainTrack remove the guesswork from grain storage so you don't need to drive, climb, or keep handwritten notes to track information. Save money on electricity and shrink by not over-drying. A typical installed system is only a few cents per bushel. For more information, check out GrainTrack at coalliance.com. GrainTrack bin monitoring only from Co-Alliance.
This is Hoosier Ag Today and the Wednesday Farm Market Review. I'm Andy Eubank. USDA Report Day as USDA issued their September quarterly stocks report, generally anywhere from neutral to supportive. This update is brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply the best value in the seed industry. 800-708-2676. seedconsultants.com. I checked in midday with Steve Erdman, EFG Group in Chicago, for report and market analysis.
The corn market initially had the greatest influence. We broke corn a dime from the highs, but we're trying to march back, and I really think it's because the wheat market by itself is constructive. So if we've got D-Sweet trading at 510 as we speak here, if we can get D-Sweet over 515 with any kind of volume, I think it's going to follow through. There's a decent-looking little interim bottom there that I think technically the market may respect and, as I said, follow through a little bit with a little bit of price strength. Beans, the USDA lowered last year's crop by 47 million bushel. So we've got a September 1st estimate at 191 million. I think that's constructive. And again, technically, if you can get no beans over 8.95, I think the market technically would be looking at the potential for maybe a 30-40 cent follow-through, which I think would do an absolute mind melt on people because we're hearing some pretty impressive bean yields coming out of the field. So I think it's pretty counterintuitive for the market to be rallying right in the midst of harvest. But that's the way a chart looks right now. And you've got meal prices up $2.50, so bull spreads are working in beans. I think there's enough constructive things that'll drag corn along for the ride. Corn's high today was $3.94.5, and as I said, we broke 11 cents to the low after the report, and now we're back to unchanged on the day. So, for 20 after 11, I think it's shaping up to be a relatively constructive day, right? As we're moving into some pretty serious harvest pressure. The corn number was 1.731, which is pretty neutral, pretty much in line with the average trade guesses. I still think in the big picture, when you talk about the kind of crops we've had over the last few years and the fact that we're looking at these types, at this level of quarterly stocks, I think it's constructive because we are producing big crops and using it to the extent that we're not building year-to-year stocks. So I think that, again, is constructive. But the corn market's been hinging on relative strength or weakness in wheat prices. It's still doing it. And I think we finally might have enough of a story in wheat that it could rally a bit.
By constructive, Steve, you're also saying essentially that these estimates from USDA don't seem crazy out of hand.
No, they're not at all. They are supportive, but there's no big shockers here, and there's no, the market's been reacting more, I'd say, to some of the concerns about world demand, China, and the way their stock market's been responding here of late. The market's jittery about world demand.
Steve Erdman at EFG Group in Chicago. Here is how the markets finished December. Corn did close right near unchanged, 1 1/4 lower for December, 387 3/4, and the March 398 3/4 down a penny. Soybeans for November 8.92, so 3 cents below that 8.95 mark, up 7 3/4 on the day though. Jan beans 8.94, up 6.5 cents, and wheat led the way, up 9 points for December wheat at 5.12 3/4. That is the Wednesday market review, and that is a wrap on the Thursday morning podcast here on Hoosier Ag Today. I'm Andy Eubank. Thanks for joining us. We're back in the middle of the day with an update on the grain markets. How will the export sales report benefit the markets today or not? We'll find that out on our midday edition expert analysis with Mike Silver, scheduled to join me from Kokomo Grain in Howard County. Have a good Thursday and stay close to Indiana agriculture with Hoosier Ag Today, Indiana's Farm Network.